He's a higher family. He's the most high, holy, and eternal, King of all kings, the only true, wise, and living God, the Almighty. Well, hello. So I said I was going to come on and start to talk increasingly about the whole agenda around ascension, what Yahuwah is now desirous to do really in the earth. So we've touched on this briefly, but we've not really gone into it in any really great detail. So we have, as we are aware, come through a major transition in the earth, not just because we know that the earth, as we've said, does actually go through these changes from time to time, usually with a shift in the balance of power, moving from west to east, like a pendulum, does go back and forth. But now, in addition to that overall motion, we now are seeing very much a transition, really, from a system under a kingdom of darkness into a system of light. So what does that mean exactly? And when we say ascension, what exactly are we saying? So I did actually do a Sabbath session really around this. I think I called it the Call for Ascension, AI versus the Footsteps of the Flock. But I don't think I actually published it for some reason. But in that session, I may see if I can retrieve it and publish it, or republish it again. I'll see. I was actually looking really at the two kind of modes or way forward that you can really have to ascend. Of course, AI, well, maybe seen as a form of ascension, but it's not really quite in the same sort of sense. So we know that really technologically we are poised really at this point. We're receiving lots of warnings, even from the developers of this technology, about the dangers really of AI. And in reality, really, it's something I can't believe that even more pastors, even in churches, aren't preaching more about, because the unleashing of this technology could even have existential implications, even for their own congregations. Because, of course, if AI does, in the worst case, actually come to actually replace many people's working jobs, then how are people going to actually pay really to maintain themselves or for their lifestyles, and even continue to contribute tithings into the coffers of the church? So that's one aspect of it as well. Technologically also, we know that there are a number of dangers really associated with the technology. It's still a great unknown. And I really have also, on a number of occasions, made several statements really about AI in and of itself and the risk really of adopting this technology in the current way or the current form, which is currently being thought about. Because, as you know, the main concern is that if they unleash this technology, they might have a way to actually pull it back, because you're actually giving ability to a machine to, I guess, I wouldn't say think, because I don't think machines do actually think, but you're giving ability to a machine to make determinations really for you that could have existential consequences really for your life, and make decisions without even having a clear way to actually determine how the decisions are made and what was actually considered in the overall making of the decision. I do apologise for the light. The sun is coming through my window at a strange angle. It's causing all these reflections and shadows. I do apologise. I hope it's not too distracting. So that's one aspect of it. So AI is seen as the kingdom of darkness, you can call it, for want of a better way to call it, as their way of, I guess, progressing or evolving. But in a real sense, it's not really an evolution at all. For instance, we'll come on to actually understand. And yet Yahuwah shows us a more excellent way, his actual proposed way for ascension. Now, as I said, ascension really is going to impact on many, many levels. So spiritually, or in a religious sense, can say just one aspect, one core aspect of it, it'll have implications over everything, technologically, socially, and even relationally, and even interpersonally. It will have impacts really on everything, essentially. And it does require, I guess, a willingness to engage, though, with the actual process and to evolve, really, as people. But it's not really as onerous as perhaps AI or technological moves to actually ascend, maybe. Because we know that one of the things that's actually being debated with AI are things like prothesis. When I say prothesis, I mean not like quite becoming the bionic man, but maybe having some kind of interface or interaction of the human body with, I don't know, either mechanical or other devices in some way that either add strength, an exoskeleton, to add extra strength, or that kind of contributes some real contribution to your physiognomy, if that makes sense, or to your actual your actual body, your being. Or in the case of companies like Neuralink, where they are considering or saying to put chips into your brain or into your head. I mean, I'm out to being wired up to the internet inside your brain. I mean, as if we don't have enough to think about already, and we're considering doing that. So you see there's a big difference, really, between how Yahuwah is actually calling for ascension and how the earth is actually calling for ascension. And really, if people were more mindful, they'd be very thankful to Yahuwah for what he's actually been trying to do, even through his chosen. Because he's actually been trying to actually get the earth, or give people in the earth, a break. Because if this technology had really come out and been totally unleashed on the population, what it would have created great dissonance and I think unhappiness, really. And as usual, it wouldn't have probably been something we could have opted out of easily. And that's always generally the way that these things are pushed by that kingdom to try to make them as universal as possible. And so what Yahuwah has actually been trying to do is actually seeing what was actually coming. We're trying to avert that. Because we've come to understand, we know that we are currently in the rule of the seventh king, don't we? We've actually said that. We are in the fourth beast system, under the rule of the seventh king, whose name was Constantine. We understand that the name Constantine now encodes papacy. We know that we're actually awaiting the return of the eighth. Now, the eighth king, as we've said, someone who lived in the past, he's coming back in the future. He is coming back to go into perdition, which simply means he's actually coming to actually dredge hell up into the earth. Now, in order to reincarnate this person, this requires a great amount of, what's the word I'm looking for? Psycho-spiritual energy. So we have come to understand that this kingdom uses narcissism or narcissistic people. If you notice, who goad people, if you notice. And why do they do that? Why do they goad people? Why do they attack people? To get a response and get a reaction. Because that's how they actually feed or get energy they feed off that response, essentially. Now, these sorts of responses would actually be needed to actually bring a reincarnation of this eighth who's coming. So you can see that before they can even really go there, they have to actually tip the earth into a situation of quite great imbalance, warfare, pain, essentially, is the main thing that it needs or wants to feed on. And this would involve, people everywhere being impacted in some way with some form of negativity, so that their pain or responses can actually be fed off to actually feed this overall system that's trying to actually reincarnate this eighth. So what Yahuwah has actually been trying to do, by bringing the chosen into the picture, is give everyone a reprieve from that scenario. But unfortunately, many haven't really seen that, and instead they've been actually trying to actually remove that to go back to what Yahuwah is actually trying to prevent. But that is actually the what Yahuwah is actually trying to do. It's actually trying to actually save many people, bring deliverance, and bring happiness, joy, in place of what the enemy was actually trying to propose and to do. Because they were actually ready to try to cast into perdition already, to try to get these responses to start actually incarnating the eighth, what they actually wanted to do. So Yahuwah's actually pushed that off, or was actually that was actually part of Yahuwah's mission, to push that off, and instead actually bring a choice, or give his people a choice to actually ascend properly through the actual proper channels, which add no sorrow at all in Yahuwah's ascension. Well, I wouldn't say no sorrow at all, because they are, because it's a personal transformation. It does require personal growth, and personal growth can be painful because there are things you may have to confront about your past, the way you're living, to actually amend or change. So from that perspective, there can be, I guess, some measure of pain or slight discomfort, but nothing at all on the level of what is actually being proposed under AI, I can assure you. So this was actually part of the actual nature of what Yahuwah is actually trying to do. So it was meant to have been a reprieve from that, and was the intent, as well in part. So as I say, it's going to impact really every single sphere. And I think it's interesting that, again, Yahuwah is actually bringing his people again to the forefront to lead on this, because as we know, our peoples, called the Asherite peoples, Assyrian peoples, Chaldean, we are natively, we've come to understand that, but they are civilization builders, essentially. They built the first civilization, they built Mystery Babylon, which we see is still in its existence to this day, under its fourth iteration. You see, all the things that we do actually build, others we try to take away. Just an aside comment. But this now is very much along the lines of what Yahuwah now is actually trying to do. So we're going to come on to look at this from all sorts of perspectives. We're going to look at it from the spiritual perspective, what that does now require, because there are many scriptures in the Word of God that actually cover this. One of the actual interesting angles we're going to approach it on is by looking at the book of Psalms and the actual songs of degrees as well, that actually speak about ascension, also very, very much in praise, and also ascension actually in our understanding of the earth. So one of the things we're going to actually look at is, do you speak earth? Because the earth, far from being a dead rock, which I think is very much how at times it feels as though Edom encourages us to see the earth, it's actually a sentient, living organism or ecosystem. But she is, in of herself, she is a living, sentient being. So living, in fact, that she responds to even things that you do and you say in her. And every day she's speaking to you through different elements, different things you might actually see in the temporal realm around you. So we're going to touch on some of these principles as well, because as we can see, part of the actual ascension is not only to actually evolve, but evolution actually growing closer also to Yahuwah. Because he said to his people, that I said to them, ye are gods. Because if you recall, he actually told the actual scribes and Pharisees that he was the son of God. And then he remarked and said, well, do you not recall I said in the scriptures, ye are gods? If I said that you are gods, then I'm actually saying I'm son of God, I'm actually making myself lesser than in what I said that you were. So this also is the actual ascension to which Yahuwah is also now calling us to. We know that he is King of Kings and Lord of Lords. So he's actually referring there also to his people also. So just a brief intro really around the issue of ascension, just as a way to kind of introduce it as a marker, and we'll come on to start to pick up on various themes to really explore how Yahuwah is going to actually take us forward really into this. So we live really in truly very exciting times, which many new wonderful things are going to begin to unfold. As I say, it will have an effect on everything. In technology, innovation as well, we should expect to now see an interdimensional shift upwards and higher, really, to other dimensions and spheres. we have things like electrical nuclear force, and there are many other forces also already in the universe that we know nothing yet at all about. But many of these things will now start to come to light, and new things will actually start to be revealed. So that's all I'll say really as an intro, really by way of introducing this as a topic. And we'll come on to actually pick up on this moving forward. So, to God be the glory. We are the repairers of the breach, as per Isaiah 58:12, #, will restore his paths. Bye for now.